The happiest of Thursdays to you, my common knowledge watchers. Let's take a look at some common cards, and we will start with Favor of the Overbeing. It is 1 and a hybrid Simic mana, green or blue, for an enchantment aura that enchants a creature. As long as that creature is green, it gets +1/+1 and has vigilance. As long as that creature is blue, it gets +1/+1 and has flying. This is from Eventide, and it's not bad. It's, potentially a +2/+2 vigilance flying. You need to have a blue and green creature. If you're playing Pauper, you might play this card, which is both blue and green, hexproof, and that goes in your Bogle's decks. It's the name. It's the namesake of the deck. And what's nice is that you only have to pay green. Like those decks are generally Simic decks. Or sorry, not Simic decks, Selesnya decks, which means that they're green-white. So they don't really play the blue, although you have ways of making blue mana in those decks if you need to, with Utopia Sprawls or Abundant Growth, things like those. So you certainly could play this. I think the problem is in Bogle's decks, I think you just have stuff that hits a little harder than this. Your Ancestral Masks, your Ethereal Armors, your Ethereal Armors, your Armadillo Cloaks. I think you just have a few more options. Flying's nice. Vigilance is okay. But +2/+2 for 2 mana. It's almost there. It's almost there. I like this in Commander though. I've got a Simic Commander deck, and this is definitely in there. It has a Sab Sunan, the frog god lady, and giving her indestructible, and she has indestructible and trample already. So giving her vigilance and flying is also tough to stop that. But in Pauper, while this is a cool card, I don't think it really has a deck that it shows up in. Can't think of many other Simic decks in Pauper, which is a little odd. It feels like there should be. Like, Simic's a pretty popular color combination in other formats, and I kind of don't know why it doesn't have a really good Pauper deck attached to it. Anyway, we'll give this a 4.1. Next up is Stern Constable. It's a single white mana for a 1/1 human soldier. You can tap it to discard a card, or tap it and you discard a card to tap a target creature. Discarding a card can be an upside sometimes. Not necessarily in white. Not a whole lot of things you're discarding. I guess technically there's some Reanimator stuff you could do in white, but you find that more often in black. If you want to discard cards, you're more likely going to be wanting to do that in red or black. So white's not the best thing for that. But also you have to be thinking about what you're getting here. You're tapping down a creature. You're tapping down your own creature and discarding a card just to tap down one of your opponent's creatures. Is that really all that worth it? I don't think it is. I think that's a lot of cost. You're going down on card advantage and creature advantage because you're tapping this thing down too, just to tap down an opponent's creature, which could be a very important creature. And sure, you could potentially lock the opponent down on that one creature that they need, but this thing's also pretty easy to remove with just the 1 toughness. I don't think it makes any sort of deck in Pauper that I can think of. I will give this a 1.3. Glint Hawk, here we go, baby. A real Pauper card, a staple Pauper card. Let's talk about it. This is also 1 white mana, but you get a 2/2 flying bird, and when this creature enters, you have to sacrifice it unless you return an artifact you control to its owner's hand. Whether you are an Orzhov bounce deck or you're a Esper bounce deck, which is becoming more popular in the format now, this guy is, you got 4 copies of it. You got 4 copies of it in your deck. You want this card in your deck because what you're using this for is to bounce useful artifacts that have ETB triggers, or in the Esper deck's case, leaves the battlefield triggers are also helpful there. Your Cryogen Relic, when it enters, you draw a card. When it leaves the battlefield, you draw a card. So the idea of being able to bounce that back to your hand and then replaying it, that's 2 extra cards you're getting off of that. Even if you stick with just the Orzhov version and you don't add the blue for Esper, you still have Tithing Blades that you can put down, make a opponent sacrifice a creature, then pick this right back up, and then put it right back down. You have Grim Baubles that can go and give -2/-2 to a creature. You could do this with a Lembas and bounce it back to your hand, so you can put it back down and get another scry and draw. There's so many things you can do with this. Refurbish Familiars, picking that up, putting it back down for probably still a pretty cheap cost, and forcing your opponent to discard a card, or if they have no cards, you drawing a card. Lots of card drawing that you can get out of a card like this. It's awesome. it's a really good card. It blocks fairies, pretty much all fairies all day long. You're gonna feel great about that. And it's only 1 mana. Like, Core Skyfisher is also a really great card in that deck, and in a lot of these kind of bounce decks. It's the kind of king of bouncing. It can bounce any permanent, not just an artifact. But it costs 2 mana, and you're getting a 2/3 out of it. But what if you had 1 mana and you still get a 2/2, and it also flies? Like, this card's so good. This card is so good. Man, what do you give Glint Hawk? It's at least an 8 in Pauper, right? It's like and it can also go in so many decks too. Like, it could go, I talked about Orzhov and Esper, but it can also go in Boros synthesizer decks as well, because that experimental synthesizer can come down and be bounced back too. So it has multiple decks that it's a real staple in, maybe one of the best cards in the deck. And for that, man, I think I'm gonna give it a 9. I'm gonna give it a 9. This card is really good. It's probably, I think we've had Brainstorm, right? So we've already had like what the best possible card in Pauper might be. But this is also just up there. What a great card. What a great pick. Awesome pick for this Thursday. Let's move into a slightly less good card. Maybe more than slightly. It's Sigardian Priest for 1 and a white. For that cost, you get a 1/2 human cleric, and you can pay 1, tap it, and tap target non-human creature. Well, we have a pretty good comparison. we had it a couple cards ago. So this thing costs an extra mana, costs a mana to tap it. You don't have to discard the card, so that's something. And it can only tap non-human creatures instead of tapping any creature. And it also gets a point of toughness. So are all of those things worth an extra mana to cast it? And, I mean, yeah, it's better than the one we saw 2 cards ago. The Stern, whatever the hell it was. But it's still not very good. You still have better tapper options than this, and you don't really play those either. So this, while better than a 1.3, will not be that much better than a 1.3. I'll give it a 1.6. And keep it moving along to Sower of Chaos. It's from Foundations. It's from Foundations? I don't remember this card at all. Let's see what it is. It's 3 and a red for a 4/3 devil, and you can pay 2 and a red to have target creature not be able to block this turn. You can keep paying that. You don't have to tap it, so you could, if they only got 1 creature and you want to swing in with this guy, you can pay your 3 mana. They can't block. You swing in. It's just too expensive. It's too expensive. It's not quite powerful enough. 4 power is pretty good, but the idea that you're paying 7 mana for that, you're paying 4 to get it on the table, then you're paying another 3 not to have a creature block, and that's only 1 creature. If they have multiple creatures out, and in Pauper, you can get a lot of creatures on the board. There are some decks that don't play a ton of creatures, but I would say most decks play a decent amount, and in that case, that's a lot of mana investment to to not get a creature, just to not block, right? Like even those white cards that we were just looking at, well, not very good. They tap the creature down. So tapping the creature down can work on both offense or defense. That, you're able to tap the creature down before it attacks you. You're able to tap the creature down so you can attack. If they're tapped, they can't block. And you're paying a lot less than what this does, and all it can do is not block. So this is no use to you on defense at all, because I guess you could make your own creatures not block. Not that you like, you just have the choice of not doing that. So yeah, I don't know. I think Sword Chaos, it's got some cool art. I like the idea of it maybe, but I don't love the card. And I think we can give this a I mean, I think it's still better than those white cards we saw just because it has better stats. Let's give this a 1.9. It's not that much better. And in some ways, it's a decent amount worse. Cruel Truce. We're getting a lot of relatively recent cards. I mean, had one from Foundations. This one's from Tarkir Dragonstorm. These are all 2025 cards. Cruel Truce is 3 and a black for an instant. It says Surveil 2. Then you draw 2 cards. You lose 2 life. It's pretty clean. It's pretty clean, but is it worth the cost? So you have cards like Night's Whisper. That's 2 mana, and you draw 2 and you lose 2. Is paying 2 less mana worth not surveilling the 2? Because the rest of it you just get. And I think, I mean, the Surveil 2 is nice. It's nice to be able to select what cards you're looking for, or at least to get rid of a couple that you don't want. Maybe put them in your graveyard if you have a graveyard strategy. But, what am I doing? Stop hitting the buttons. There we go. But honestly, Night's Whisper, also available in Pauper. Sign in Blood, Pauper playable? I think it is. I don't really see why it wouldn't be. Yeah, Sign in Blood. That's also a Pauper card. Target player draws 2 cards, loses 2 life. Same kind of deal. Double black instead of 1 and a black. You can make your opponent draw cards and make them lose 2 life. So I guess that's potentially a little better. But yeah, I mean, both of those cards, I think you'd probably just play over Cruel Truce. The 2 extra mana is really what kills it. This came out in Tarkir Dragonstorm, so if this had Harmonize, which it wouldn't, it's not the right colors for it, but if this had Harmonize where you're able to tap down a creature to pay for some of that cost, I think you could make a good argument for, I see where this goes in a deck where Night's Whisper or Sign in Blood wouldn't. But without something like that, without some way of reducing the cost, without flashback on it, without any extra gravy outside of the Surveil 2, I think it's a tough sell. It's a tough sell. And I think we got to give it like a 2.7. I mean, it's probably better than that, but again, I just showed you 2 cards. That would be 8 cards in your deck that you'd play before this, and that really makes the quality of this effect go way down. Next up is Kami of Jealous Thirst. 2 and a black for a 1/3 spirit. It's got Death Touch, and you can also pay 4 and a black to have each opponent lose 2 life, and you gain 2 life. But it costs 4 and a black less to activate if you've drawn 3 or more cards this turn. And you can only activate it once per turn, which is probably safe, because if you did draw your 3 cards, you could just do this infinitely if it didn't have that last line of text. This is an okay limited card. This is from Modern Horizons 3, not Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, even though it's a Neon Dynasty planed themed card. 1/3 Death Touch isn't terrible for 3 mana. It's not the best. One point of power is not amazing, but you are getting a creature that can block a lot of stuff. We saw Scorpion a day or 2 ago that had a 1/3 Death Touch stat line for 3 mana. So this is better than that, straight up. And then you have this ability here that it makes a 4-point life swing. You don't even have to tap the creature to do it. If you have that Knight's Whisper, you play that. You've drawn your card for turn, plus you drew those 2 cards. You have the effect here. You get it for free. It's okay. It's okay. The problem is that I think most of the time you're going to want a more repeatable effect than this. You're going to want something that doesn't only activate once per turn. You don't mind paying a little bit for it. So if you had a way to just drain a single life from an opponent, but you had a more repeatable way of doing that where you could do it 2, 3, 4 times a turn with all the extra mana you're getting. You have your Pack Doll Terror that can kind of do that, but it's the conditional that you have to keep putting artifacts into play. I think you generally find that those are going to be more useful than this, because drawing 3 cards is not the easiest thing to do every turn. There are a handful of, there's more than a handful. There's a good number of ways to draw 2 extra cards each turn. You've got your brainstorms that draw you 3 cards. You got plenty of blue cards that will draw you a couple cards. You've got the black cards that we just talked about that draw you a couple cards. You've got the red cards that have you discard a card and draw 2 cards. So there are a number of ways to make this work. But is this the effect you really want to build around to the point where you'd want to be in all those other colors, or you'd want all of those cards from those colors to be able to activate this? And I don't think it is. I think a 2-point drain from an opponent is not something that's good enough for each turn. You can do this on your opponent's turn too. So what if you had a Dimir deck and you played Brainstorm on their turn because it's an instant, and then you got to do it on their turn because you drew 3 cards, and then on your turn you're able to Knight's Whisper or something, and you draw another 2 cards, and you've already drawn 1 for turn, so you could do this again. I see the vision. I see how it works. But I don't think you necessarily get enough opportunities, and I think you could probably just end up doing more with that mana than this. Something a little bit more consistent. We'll give this a 3.2. And move to Knights of Dol Amroth. Amroth? Somebody will correct me. Because so they'll definitely correct me. I didn't realize. Yeah, from Lord of the Rings, somebody will definitely correct me on the correct pronunciation on that one. But the knights here, they're a 3/3 human knight, if you can believe it. And whenever you draw your second card each turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Well, we already talked about lots of different ways to draw cards. This time you only have to draw 2. You draw your second card, and it's also each turn, so you can brainstorm on that opponent's turn and totally get this. But now you've got options on your turn that you draw the card for turn. Now you can opt. Now you can preordain. Now you can do all sorts of little single cantrips and get the advantage from this. But kind of like the Kami that we just saw, you paid 4 mana. It's 3/3 that gets a counter, maybe 2 every turn cycle. It's vanilla other than that. No form of evasion. Not even vigilance or something like that would at least give it a little something more. I don't think you play this in Pauper. Limited, maybe. Even limited would be a tougher sell for somebody like me, at least, where I'd want to make sure I had enough ways of triggering this, because a 4 mana 3/3, not very good. Yeah, not a card that's going to see a whole lot of play here. Not a card that's going to get a whole lot of love here. I think we will go for something like let's call it a 2. Let's just call it a straight up 2. Which is probably a little too much, but we've made our decision. Let's talk about Floodwaters. It's 4 and double blue for a sorcery that says return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hands. And it also has cycling too. So for 2 mana, you can discard this card and draw another card. Cycling's cool. It's good ability. You like having cards with cycling. In case you don't need this, in case you get this in the early game and you don't have 6 freaking mana available to you, you would at least have an ability to pitch this and grab something that might be more useful for you at that moment. But I don't think this ability is all that great. It's you get 2 unsummons for 6 mana. Unsummon costs 1. So, and also unsummons an instant. This is a sorcery. This is a sorcery speed. The only thing instant speed about this is the cycling. Again, cycling's nice, but I don't think it's nice enough to slap 2 unsummons together and make it cost 6 mana. That's crazy. That's a crazy amount of mana. That's I don't see where you'd ever need to do that. So I think we're gonna give this, man, the cost really does break this. I think we're gonna give this a 1.4. Pretty bad. Pretty bad. Olivia's Dragoon is 1 and a black for a 2/2 Vampire Berserker where you can discard a card, and this creature gains flying until end of turn. It's actually not too bad as just a way to instantly and repeatably discard cards at instant speed. If you've got a Madness deck, even if you have a Mayhem deck or something that plays with both, having the ability to discard a card at any time, discard as many cards as you want at any time, to be able to pay all their Madness costs, which are generally cheaper or give you a different effect when you discard them and play them for their Madness costs. That's cool. That's cool. It's a little disappointing that all this thing gets is flying when you do that. If it gave it a power boost and evasion, maybe it'd be a little bit better. But this is a solid little enabler for a lot of decent strategies. Now, those strategies, I think, have enough cards, have enough enablers that they don't need to play something like this. They have stuff that does this plus a little bit more. And I think it gets this just an eensy bit out of contention for actual playability. But it's still pretty good. I'm going to give this a 4, which might be a little too much. But I feel like it, I think if you're maybe a novice player or haven't really played with Madness much or don't know what Madness is, you look at a card like this and go, do I really want to trade my card advantage for a little bit of evasion on a single turn? No, that sounds terrible. And it is terrible, generally. But when you have those abilities, and Pauper has a lot of those abilities of things that you'd want to discard, whether it's a sneaky snacker that you want to throw in your graveyard, which is in black and blue, but it's in one of the colors of this card. Maybe you want to throw a sneaky snacker in the graveyard, so then you can draw a couple cards, and that card then comes back from your graveyard to the battlefield instantly, which is its ability. This enables that. This helps you out with some of that. I don't hate it. I think 4 is a totally fine number for that. Let's do ourselves a bonus card. How about that? End this Thursday right with Law Mage's Binding. It is 1 and Azorius, which is white and a blue. It's an enchantment aura with flash, and you can chance a creature, and that enchanted creature cannot block, attack, or the other way around. And its activated abilities cannot be activated. Interesting. So this is an Arrest variant, which is a pacifism variant. So Arrest, that's from Mirrodin. That's my boy right here. Well, I guess it's from Mercadian Mask, but I remember from Mirrodin. This was just a relatively decent removal spell back in the Mirrodin days. Not only because like I said, it was a pacifism variant, which just says the creature can't attack or block. But that costs one less mana, which is a little bit nice. But this gets rid of activated abilities too. So if you got some really dangerous things with activated abilities, of which there are some in Pauper, maybe an Arrest is more your speed. But if you want instant speed, well, that's what this card does. Now it does force you to be in another color, which allows it to get this little extra gravy of instant speed, which is not nothing. Instant speed's pretty good. It makes this a lot more interesting than just a regular Arrest. But I think you'd rather just exile the creature altogether. Like Journey to Nowhere is a card that just exiles the creature under Journey to Nowhere, Now you don't even have to worry about its triggered abilities, much less its activated abilities. You don't have to worry about it attacking or blocking. Journey to Nowhere costs 1 less mana. It's only in mono white, so you don't even have to worry about getting the second color. It doesn't go at flash speed. I guess there's that, but there's a ton of Oblivion Ring style effects. That's generally what they call them, right? Like that's the Oblivion Ring from Lorwyn, the original Lorwyn. And there are tons of cards that find a similar style of effect. Ossification or Banishing Light, plenty of those. Anyway, I think the exile creatures is kind of mostly just better than this. You really don't want to leave the creature on the table to still find a way to do something. You know, it counts if it's, let's say it's like some kind of Lord effect or pump effect that's giving it to the other creatures. Putting this on it doesn't stop that from happening. The exile effect would, because that creature is no longer on the battlefield. So it's cool. It's cool. I think Wizards has slowed down on these kinds of effects because they really do the temporary exile effects way more these days. And that means this just doesn't have as many play options available to it. And I don't think it has as much consideration in many decks. But flash speed does make this kind of interesting. We'll give this a 2.5. 2.5. And that is it for this Thursday. We'll catch you next time to end the week. Till then, see ya.